Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Warcraft Weekly, episode number 8. And this is your weekly news show, taking a look at everything that's been going on in the world of Azeroth. Today's date is the 12th of October, and we're going to be taking a look at everything that's been going on in the past 7 days. In the news this week, we now have the release date for patch 6.0.2, and it will be going live on servers on the 14th of October, which is literally just a few days from when this episode of Warcraft Weekly goes live. Now, patch 6.0.2 is the pre-expansion patch for Warlords of Draenor, and we will be seeing a lot of changes happening. We did put together a survival guide last week that you can go and check out, which looks over some of the bigger changes, such as class changes, or item changes, or the new models that are coming into the game, and you can check that out over at flaskup.com. There's also a link in the description below that you can follow to that survival guide. As this is the pre-expansion patch, we will now have access to the pre-expansion event, and if you head on over to the Blasted Lands, you will notice that the Dark Portal has turned a blood red, and hundreds of strange looking orcs are pouring into Azeroth. Now, I don't want to go into much more detail about the pre-expansion event, as it will set the ball rolling for the events to come in Warlords of Draenor, and you need to go and experience it and check it out yourselves. As well as this, we're also going to gain access to a revamped level 90 only version of Upper Blackrock Spire. Now, this level 90 only version of the dungeon will be available for a short period of time, and remember that when Warlords of Draenor does go live, we will gain access to a level 100 version of the Upper Blackrock Spire dungeon. With 6.0.2 just literally 2 or 3 days away depending on what region you're in, that means we are now only 4 weeks away from getting stuck into Warlords of Draenor, and kicking some Ironhorde arse if we're going to be brutal. And we would like to know what your plans are for Draenor. Are you going to try something different? Maybe try out a different class or a spec? Or maybe take up PvE or take up PvP or anything different? Let us know in the comments section below, as we are interested to find out what people do plan on doing. With the release of 6.0.2, Blizzard are now moving towards using the new CASC file system, and moving away from the old MPQs that they've been using for some time now. This process will be fully automatic and will be done through the Battle.net desktop app as it installs the new 6.0.2 patch for you. Now, on the day of 6.0.2's release, there will also be a small final patch to download, which will be around 100 meg in size, so it shouldn't take too long. Blizzard do recommend that if you have not run a defrag on your hard drive in some time, then it can save you time when it comes to the CASC files being put into place, although you shouldn't need to do this if you do use a solid state drive. At first, it may not seem like the old MPQ files are being removed, but as the conversion process processes each MPQ, it will then delete it, and at the end of the process, you should no longer be using any more hard drive space than you currently were for Warcraft. With Blizzcon being only 25 days away now, Blizzard have now released the map and the schedule, and the first thing you will notice is that there is an entire new area on the right hand side of the map which has been allocated as a StarCraft tournament stage. This is most likely due to the release of new games and Blizzard making more room for games such as Heroes of the Storm and Hearthstone. You can head on over to FlaskUp or the official BlizzCon website in order to view the full schedule for the weekend, as well as take a look at the map. Now, earlier on today, I was reading a post on a website called Nexus Champ about Blizzard potentially hiding something big for BlizzCon. The article states that there are no panels planned for Friday between 12:30 and 1:30 in the afternoon, and this is something that Blizzard have not done any other year, so if we put on our tinfoil hats for a moment, we could begin to speculate that there may be something waiting to be announced in this time slot. We could potentially hear of a new expansion, if what we spoke about in last week's news about the release schedules and forthcoming expansions is true, or maybe we're just getting on the BlizzCon hype syndrome train and they've got nothing to put in this time allocation at all. Either way, 25 days and counting. On Sunday the 12th of October, which is today, Eon Hazakostis and Brian Holinka will be joining the Convert to Raid team in order to discuss all things Warlords of Draenor. The show will start roughly 1800 Central Eastern Time, which will just be a few hours from when this weekly goes live, and we can expect there to be a lot of Warlords information being thrown around. If you do happen to miss the show, then you'll be able to watch a VOD of it over on the Convert to Raid website after the show has aired. Earlier on in the week, Blizzard released part 3 of their Garrisons blog series, This one being titled, "Who Are You Calling Your People?" Now this blog post took a look at the NPCs that you will be able to acquire throughout the garrison building process. And this blog post also takes a look at what will become available to you at certain upgrade levels on your garrison, and also what some of the NPCs will be able to do for you. If you are looking at putting time into your garrison in Warlords of Draenor, then we highly recommend that you go and give the blog post a read, as it does contain a lot of important information. And to close the show this week, this one is for anyone out there who may use the Warcraft API for websites that they run. The question, are there any API updates coming for patch 6.0.2, was asked over on the Battle.net forums, and one of the Battle.net developers has said that there are currently a lot of changes in the works for the game, as we all know, and due to the scope of these changes, the API will most likely not work properly between the pre-patch and the launch of Warlords of Draenor, and that the API team is actively working in order to have something ready for when the expansion does go live. Now, I'm no developer myself, but with all of the changes that are being made, I would assume that a fair amount of changes will need to be made to the API, but as long as it is working as intended for the Warlords release, then there shouldn't be too much of an issue for people. So that's going to do it for this week's Warcraft Weekly. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next Sunday.